The best time to learn about money is when you're broke, and the 10 money lessons that being broke teaches you. So today we're talking about money management and why being broke can be the best teacher. And I know there are plenty of people who feel helpless and hopeless when it comes to money. And ironically, being broke is one of the best teachers if you embrace it and you start to manage money and recognize it is an opportunity to make changes. Because money management isn't choice, it isn't optional, it's a necessity. Until you learn how to be disciplined and manage your money, you won't know where it's going. And so while scarcity alone isn't enough to make change, and there are some people who can suffer a job loss or financial setback, and that doesn't automatically mean they're suddenly going to become disciplined with money. Some people who are broke never learn, some are never ready. And it could be that they make some immediate changes because they're forced to, and they revert back to their bad habits once the money starts coming in again. And so, ironically, abundance often does not lead to money changes because it can mask the mistakes that you're making. You have money coming in, and overspending can feel like it's just normal. More money's coming in, so you're not recognizing the problem for what it is, and it just continues because the bank balance is there, money's coming in. What's the problem? And I know I was there, I did this too. So back in 2001, I had already made some changes in my life. I knew I wasn't earning enough money, and so I made a job change. And so in 2000, I went from making $30,000 a year to $45,000 a year. And I subsequently started to get raises after that as well. And in 2001, I believed that I had enough money. I had abundance coming into my life. I was making payments and I was paying my bills and I was no longer being late on things. But I was so close to the edge. And it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I was finally able to make the changes that were necessary for me to manage my money properly. And so here we are, 2001, after September 11th, and flights around the world were cheap. People were scared to fly. And so a friend and I, we decided we were going to go to Paris. But the only thing was, I needed somebody to watch my car because in New York City, there is what we call alternate side parking. Every other day in certain parts of the city, they do street sweeping. And that means you have to move your car during a couple of hours span to the other side of the road so the street sweeping can take place. And so I went to one of my friends and said, "Hey, can you watch my car and take it for the week and just ensure that I do not get a ticket for alternate side parking?" And he did. And unfortunately, he took my car and parked too close to a New York City pump. And that created a cycle of problems for me because I came back from my trip from Paris to find that my car had been impounded by the city and it had been accruing fees. I had not enough money coming in to be able to handle that kind of emergency in my life. We're talking about fees that were accumulating all the days that I was away, and every single day that it remained impounded was more money. I did everything that I could. I scrounged up all the change that I had, any extra bills that I had. I decided I was robbing from Peter to pay Paul. I was calling my credit card companies and pleading with them to raise my limit, and it worked, but it still was not enough. It was overwhelming, and I didn't want to run to my family. And so, what I did instead is I went to my boyfriend at the time, who is my husband now, and I asked him for some money. And his reaction was so calm and so easy that a couple of $100 to lend to me was no big deal. And it made me recognize the difference between the way I was managing my money and the way he was managing his money. He had excess, I was living on the edge. And so, why is broke the best teacher? Well, number one, it necessity drives action. And so, me seeing that I needed to make a change, it allowed me to focus on what was most important. And so, comfort rarely sparks change, but discomfort makes you change the way you act with your money, the way you manage it. And so, I went and got a second job. And even if it meant me going through a season of sacrifice and working extra on the weekends, it's what I needed to do to get myself into a position of at least building an emergency fund, getting myself out of debt. The next thing is pain creates clarity. When every dollar counts, you start to watch where your money is going. And so, for me being broke, I was being so careful at that point. I knew where every dollar, and I was tracking everything. I made a promise to myself that I was going to get better with money, and I did. And the next thing that being broke teaches you is it teaches you to recognize that small wins matter. Even if it meant I was just saving and I was ahead during the week on $20, or I paid off a bill and I paid off one student loan, $38 a month, and I was completed it, it felt victorious to me. And maybe that seems small when in comparison to all the student loans that I owed, but that small little student loan paid off just felt incredible. And the last thing it does is habits scale upward. When you are saving money and you are building and learning how to manage small amounts, as you get better with your money, maybe at first you're managing for a point of stability, but eventually you get to a point where you're managing larger sums of money. And the discipline and the habits that you learn, consistency being one, they build and build on over time. And so those habits scaled upward. To this day, I'm now managing millions of dollars, and I do not have to worry about money the same way as I did when I was broke, but I still always revert back and recognize the lessons that I learned when I was broke. Because the reality is abundance, while people may learn when they do have money to manage, discomfort and scarcity is the best teacher that you can have when it comes to your finance. Because when you have money coming in, it often hides the mistakes that you're making. When you're overspending, but the paycheck is coming in, it can mask the instability that you have going on in your life the same way as it did for me. And so it is only when you embrace scarcity that you allow it to be a teacher. As for the 10 money lessons that people learned when they are broke, we're going to go into those now. So I have my list in front of me. And number one, and you've heard this as my um, on another video, spending is fast, earning is slow. This is a money truth for me. Spending is fast, money earning is slow. And it's often the first reality check that people realize that how quickly it is to spend money, but how difficult it is to earn that same amount of money. So you can spend in minutes, and the inflow and the outflow are just different. And so it allows you to see the truth about money, and it makes you make better decisions with your life. So that's a lesson people learn when they're broke. Number two, wants versus needs becomes crystal clear when you're broke. When you're broke, you stop confusing convenience with necessity. You understand what actually keeps you afloat, and then you learn to realize how little that you could actually live on. And once you do, that is amazing, because as you incorporate more things in your life, you do it from a point of knowing you're better with money. So you never forget what you actually need and what you don't. Number three, small wins build big change. And this one was so big for me. I When I was broke, saving even a small amount of money took a lot of effort because my bills were high. I had student loan debt, car loan debt, credit card debt, and my bills itself were high just on my lifestyle. although I was earning a good salary at the time, I was not earning for the lifestyle I was living. And so the small wins I had, little by little, being able to build the discipline and the consistency that I had with my finances, it helped me build momentum. And it made me realize that you accomplish a lot, a little at a time. It doesn't happen overnight. There's so many people in the world that are looking for get rich schemes or get rich wins. And reality is you grow a little bit at a time, at least at first, until compounding takes effect. But your effort grows inch by inch, and day after day, it's stacked over time. So small wins builds big change. Number four, creativity replaces consumption. So, lack of money forces resourcefulness, and it may mean that you cook at home, or maybe you repair instead of replacing things, or you look for ways to be creative that fulfillment doesn't necessarily have to cost you money, and you learn how to do things yourself. So, number five is gratitude gets sharper. When you have fewer distractions when it comes to your money, you become more grateful and more content with the things that you do have, because it becomes so much more meaningful for the things that actually you did pay for and pay for yourself and that cost you money. And so you become much more grateful when you're broke for the things that you do have. So gratitude gets sharper. The next is number six. Debt feels heavier. When your money is tight and you realize how much of your money is going to the banks in the form of interest, you start to feel like you are being stolen from. And it makes you become a little bit more interested in paying down the debt and not having your money being stolen from you. So, debt teaches you, and where many people get to the point like I did, and they vow they'll never do it again, and they're never going to take out debt. And they do, because being broke can teach you that having debt is heavy. Number seven, discipline becomes survival. So you learn that budgeting isn't optional, tracking isn't optional. Every dollar counts when it comes to your money. And so you learn to that same discipline, and then it carries through and it helps you build wealth later on. So discipline becomes survival at first, but eventually it becomes wealth building. Number eight, the value of an emergency fund hits home. When I had to borrow from my credit cards to be able to get my car out of the impound, that need for emergency fund was my breaking point. That I had let things go so badly, that I was living so close to the edge. So this one, the value of the emergency fund, hits home. When you're broke and that unexpected bill hits, it can feel like torture. It's a disaster. And when you have money, that same amount of money, it just feels like Tuesday. Something goes wrong, because you can count on rain. Something will go wrong. So if you have to protect yourself, you have to build an emergency fund. You have to have money for when things go wrong, because they do. Number nine, money isn't everything, but it touches everything. So being broke teaches you that money itself isn't a goal. But the reality is that money does touch every aspect of our life, and we do need it to be able to house ourselves, to be able to feed ourselves, and to do things that we want with money. And it doesn't matter as far as the excess is concerned. It's tied to what you need to live your everyday life. And so money isn't everything, but money touches everything, and you learn that when you're broke. So people value and think that money brings you happiness, but not having money can absolutely bring you unhappiness. So, money isn't everything, but it definitely touches everything. And the last thing being broke teaches you about money is scarcity is a teacher and comfort is a trickster. When you finally get when you finally learn that scarcity is forcing you to grow, and you finally embrace scarcity of being a teacher, you actually learn how to manage your money. Again, not everyone who's broke is going to learn. Not everybody is ready. But when you are, you cannot unlearn the lessons that you learn when you're broke. Because the truth is, money alone doesn't teach you how to manage money. Struggle doesn't teach you how to manage money. But if you lean into scarcity and you will embrace the changes that you need and you allow it to transform how you manage your money, it's going to change your trajectory towards wealth. You see money is fragile, spending is fast, earning is slow, and that discipline is a necessity when it comes to your money. It's everything. So these truths, while it's possible to learn money truths in abundance and to become good with money in abundance, some people do. But comfort dulls awareness, scarcity demands it, and those who embrace the lessons they learn when they're broke carry a strength others overlook. And that's why the best time to learn about money is when you're broke. This is Regina from Simply Fundamental. Thank you for tuning in. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.